What's going on?
What up, Stu? Drew?
Stu and Drew.
Good times.
And how's it going, man? Drew, good to see you, brother.
Doing all right, man. Good to see you guys. Smiling faces, looking good.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're in the same city as me, and I haven't probably seen you in like 2 years. That's it's not good, man. Not good at all. We need to stop that.
I mean, Drew did say before the show, before we started recording, he said he hasn't really hung out much in the last year and a half with people that he likes. So that probably tells you something. That he doesn't like you is how I read that. How I heard it. That's how I heard it.
Sounds like a little reworded, but it's all good.
Hey man, it's our show, dude. It's what I heard.
It's true. It's all good.
Well, Drew, hey, this is for our listeners, Filling the Storehouse podcast. We have our friend Drew Morris on today. He is a Naval Academy grad, fellow alumni, veteran Marine, and now one of the top realtors here in Denver. He actually helped my family find our house, and my wife was a huge pain in the behindy for him and his team. And we probably looked at what, Drew, like 82 houses, 182 houses, something like that. Yeah. All like spanning the entire metro of Denver, and he was incredibly patient.
You learned what you liked, what you didn't like. It worked out well.
Yeah. But Drew has he got out of the Marines and jumped out on his own, and honestly, like an amazing realtor, and has what, dude? Like, you're one of the top realtors in Denver now, right?
Some people would say that.
Like some people
would say different rankings and award structure. Sure. Yeah, it's been up there.
Yeah, man. Well, you do a great job. But if for our listeners, if you don't mind, like, could you just kind of give them a little bit of backstory of like who you are, where you came from, and kind of what you're doing now?
Yeah. So commissioned Marine Corps 2006. Served on active duty for 7 or 8 years, if I can do the math. I got out in June, went on terminal leave in June of 2013. So what actually brought us to the Denver area was the recruiting station. So I was out in Camp Pendleton for a few years, operational side. And I'm sure a bunch of people can identify with this, wanted to get into something for a B billet that I knew they wouldn't touch me, because at that point they were like plucking people and sending them across the globe for IA billets, and my wife wouldn't have it. They were like, okay. I asked my XO, like, what can I get into? Got into recruiting duty. He's like, he recommended it. Put my name in the hat for Denver because we just thought it would be cool to live by the mountains. Had no connections out here. Got selected, came out to Denver, and we wanted to stay. Wanted to plant roots and start a new life. Start a family and all that, and put my, I guess, resignation in June of 2013 with terminal, and got licensed in real estate that same month, and kind of jumped in and went from there. So yeah, crazy times.
Why real estate? Like, were you already doing real estate? Were you an investor? What was kind of the transition?
Oh yeah. Man, so I have no real estate family background, anything. Other than my dad, most of my life was always like, you need to buy rentals, like buy properties, right? Go and what we are told when you go to duty stations, you should buy a property and keep it. But when it came time to transition careers, it was as I learned that I like sales while on recruiting duty. And it wasn't because I was like, I love to smile and talk to people and, and sell things. It was more, I found that I really loved the sales process and how it was actually more of a consistency thing and an effort thing, an activity thing, rather than like a personality thing. And so that resonated with me. So as I was looking for new careers, I was like, I want to be in sales, something sales related. But as we were looking at that point, so that was like 2012, it was right before kind of the economy and things took off in the Denver area, and so everything required me moving away, and that was not why we were getting out of the Marine Corps. We wanted to stay here, and then everything else also required traveling a ton, and it's like, well, I can just stay in the Marine Corps and travel a ton. So nothing was really lining up for what we wanted to do and what kind of life we wanted to have here. So we actually it was my wife was like, hey, you should talk to our agent who helped us buy our home when we moved here. So started talking to him, and it was the one thing that I was like, wow, this is actually kind of exciting. It feels good. It feels like it could be something I could really get into. It's the one thing that was actually a little scary. It was different. So we kind of went down that road and just said, you know what, let's do it. Let's just slap the table and start moving forward with it. And so I think in like January of 2013 is when I just started the licensing stuff and decided that's what we're going to do, and did it.
Now, real quick, was the decision to get out, was it a Marine Corps driven decision? Like you came to Colorado knowing you want to get out, or was it, we love Colorado, we want to get out, and so you punched?
It was a little bit of both. We moved out here because we wanted to be in a place where if we did decide to get out, it was in a more of a major metro area that wasn't tied to a base, which now I'm like, actually there's a really huge defense presence. But we wanted to be away, but we also just wanted to try something different. But it was while we were here, I think, just living out here and establishing roots and loving the lifestyle in the place, we just figured this is where we want to be. Let's actually just stay. So that's when we decided to just pull the trigger. Because I had career school next already lined up. I had of course, everybody was like, why are you getting out? The typical thing from your command. And I actually really loved the people that I served with, and loved being around Marines, loved deploying. Was excited about what could be next as a captain, going, back into the fleet. I mean, there's a lot of good things that were going to come our way, but I mean, ultimately, we couldn't see ourselves doing that same lifestyle going forward and trying to have a family. Because I grew up in a Navy family. My dad, was deployed a ton, and just we had like he did a lot of geo batching as well. So we just didn't want to live like that. And then, I got to do everything I wanted to do in the Marine Corps. Got to deploy, got to do the MEU, got to be at an infantry battalion. I mean, all kinds of good stuff. So we moved on.
Yeah, man, it's military life can be tough, and David knows a little bit about that right now, doing some geo batch time himself.
Yeah,
and
I have tons of respect for guys that can, and the families, and then the wives and partners that truly can be on board and support that, because it's tough. It is so tough.
Well, you talked about, kind of making that scary move, and it sounds scary to me. And David and I are about to transition out, and we've talked to this on our podcast before, but I feel like that David and I are pretty set up. We have lots of different options, lots of different stuff in the fires, and it's still pretty nerve-wracking. Like, I'm still nervous about that transition and not having that steady 2-week paycheck. And you move into a place where you didn't have anybody, any family, any connections besides just the Marines that you were serving with, and not being in real estate and transitioning out with no plan of what paycheck is coming next and going into real estate. That's got to be pretty scary, dude. Yeah,
absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, man. Like, how did you kind of get through that? Like, how did you continue to push forward?
There was a big faith piece too. We were always just confident. Like, we knew that was probably it could be from the outside a stupid decision. Like, why would you leave salaried to non anything? It doesn't make sense, because our peer group, or maybe you guys are, I guess you guys are a lot further ahead than I was, like, at that point. But like our peer group, the typical thing was, hey, you're going to go, you apply to business school, you get in, you go to school for a bit, then you get your business management, job somewhere, consulting, whatever it is, mid-level management, and you make a nice salary to keep moving on. And so at that point, that's what was happening around me. And I felt like this kind of weirdo, going into this. And back to, it was terrifying, but we really looked at it. We said, okay, based on what's in the savings account, based on what we have available on a credit card, and if I have to dip into like retirement savings, like, okay, we can last about this long.
Yeah.
And based on everything I'm learning from people, if I just do these things and are willing to just kind of stretch it out, we should be okay. And I think there's a big part of it was just the burning the ships mentality, right? Like, hey, there's no option.
Yeah.
There's no other option. Like, this has to work. So I think that helps a lot, or it helped a ton, because we're just going to figure this out. And it's going to be a part of our life. We're just going to, everything we do is going to be about this. And, we're just hope it happens. So, but the planning on the money side, that was important, right? You can't go into this and with nothing set aside, because you truly are set up for failure. You can't do it that way. You have to have something to come into, or something to help buffer that time period.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that it wasn't until I'd say it's about my 18-month mark, where actually that was where I was more in the red and really hurting financially. 18-month mark. I think I had like one of my last closings for the year was like in October, and I didn't have anything close until March of the next year. And about 4 months into that desert, well, let me back up to that October. I still hadn't met my income. I hadn't matched my income from the Marine Corps from the previous 18 months. So I was still kind of slowly bleeding out over that time. So finally I got to this kind of stop where I was like, man, I'm literally taking some money out of state or retirement to pay, the next couple months bills, whatever. And I remember vividly being like in my office, which was a home office and a bedroom, right? And I was like, okay, I think I might need to get a part-time job to like pay the bills. And for whatever reason, like I was even talking to like some of our friends. I was talking to Bree about it. Like, this is what I think we need to do, because we're really hurting. And thankfully, or for whatever reason, mentally, I couldn't grasp doing that. I couldn't say like, okay, I'm going to now split my time and go spend time doing something for minimum wage. I don't know, whatever it would be. I couldn't mentally do that, even though I knew it would probably be an option, or it should be an option. So, what we just decided to do is like, we're just going to dig in more. Like, this, somehow we're going to just make this work. And thankfully, through connections and through some of the people that I worked with, like mentors, we ended up being able to close on something in March. And actually out of that was my first year. That would have been my second full year, but I guess that was 2015. That was my first year that I crossed like the 6-figure mark in income in real estate. So it was like, the same kind of cliche thing, like darkest before the dawn type thing. Like, that was exactly how that felt. And then from that point on, everything else just kept humming and getting better. So there was that point where it was like most people, or I could see where it would be very easy to quit. Like I would have had to financially. And that happens pretty often in this industry, because it's just the reality of getting started. But
yeah, that it's interesting, because that's what they say. A lot of small businesses, and I'm trying to think of the book that where I think Tipping Point is the book where it talks about like you're right there, and it's so hard. You put in all this effort, and then and then you stop. And if you potentially would push just a little bit longer, it could, it'd be the tipping point and blow up. Yeah. And it's funny that you kind of went there, because my next question to you was, now that you've been doing this for, you said 13, so what, 8 years, 7, 8 years, you're on the other side of it, right? You're on a completely different side. I'm just kind of curious, as your perspective now, where you are now, looking back on that, I think it's important, and I'm having a bit difficulty framing the question because I've never asked this question, but when you do look back on it, you're on this side, and your perspective now looking at that time, I think it would be good insight for people that are transitioning to have the hope of what you've accomplished to feed their vision of what they can accomplish. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So like us going into it, we're like, oh man, this is stressful, and we're going to have retirements, which is huge. Yeah. But a lot of people listening, I think you could be a huge encouragement for those looking to transition, because I think in 5 to 10 years from now, they're going to look back at this moment on a decision they made, hopefully made or didn't make, and realize, they'll potentially be crushing it, doing great things. So yeah. I'm just kind of curious, when you look back on it from this perspective, like what is your take on that now? Like, what would be the advice that you give somebody like a couple of knuckleheads like us who are transitioning out?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing is, with the fear, part of what I think people struggle with, because this is me struggling on the fear side, was being so attached to titles and like where you stand in a hierarchy, and being used to that. I think my perspective is that people struggle with being confident enough in themselves to get over all of that and to say, screw all the rank and what I was and what I think I am, because it doesn't matter. Like, looking back, all of that stuff doesn't matter. Like, it was all important, and it was a part of it, helped create who I am today. It's a part of me and all those things, but like, I'm never ever again tied to like my rank, right, or like my role. But I think people need to get over all of that. Like, get over like what you think you need to do, and where you will start out in the civilian world, because and get over the fact that you think you need to get into like a W-2 job, frankly. Get over the salary thing, because as a business owner now, and as you guys totally understand, I'm sure, like, when you look at what's risky versus not, like, being employed is just as risky as being self-employed, right? Like, every business ultimately is generating revenue, and it needs to come from customers, and you might just be receiving something that's guaranteed, but not really. Because if revenue is not coming in, then employees aren't getting paid, or employees are getting axed, right? So, like, get that idea of like, hey, something's more secure than the other. Get that out of your mind. Get over it, and have confidence in yourself that you actually, if you just show up and you be a good person and you take care of people and you just do that every day, like, you're gonna crush it. It's, I mean, and I'm simplifying it for sure, right? There's a lot of nuances, but that's what I've seen. Like, people that just get out there and they just attack it, and they just do, instead of just like plan and think. If they just go out and do more than planning and thinking, we'll say, they do really well. And specifically on the real estate front, it's very easy to get caught up in like the paralysis side of, well, I don't know this, like, how do I do this, and how do I talk to these people, and how do I deal with the situation? Some people want to know all the answers before they do, and that just doesn't work. Yeah. This is a movement to contact type of industry, and that's the Marine a marine, I guess, formation and marine evolution.
I was about to give you a yut right there.
Yeah, you get out. So movement to contact means I don't know where the enemy is. They're over there somewhere, and we're just going to start going until we run into them, and then we'll figure out our plan to overcome them. So that's what you have to do in figuring all this stuff out. Go quickly, just start moving, figure it out, feel confident in yourself in those fronts. So anyways, there's a lot of stuff there I can get into, but
I love that though, man, because the one thing you really hit on was that mindset piece.
Yeah.
Like I think there's so much power, and it's probably one of the places we spend the least amount of time developing.
Yeah.
Because we're concerned about all the other stuff, the ancillary, okay, my income, salary, all that stuff that you're talking about, and we don't spend time right here. And for those listening, I'm pointing to my head. We don't spend time developing that mindset and having the confidence to know, you know what, I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to fail. And I think that's huge, dude. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I think in the failing piece, what I've learned too is I've learned to, because I've failed on like micro scales, or like on the micro level. I failed multiple times on the micro level, which has allowed me to, from the outside, look like I'm flourishing on the macro side. I think as I've been in this longer and longer, and maybe as you guys have seen as entrepreneurs, that I've become more and more confident in taking risks, just like to be going out there trying it and being okay, knowing like, hey, if it didn't work, scratch it, do something else, and just do it again and try that, and then continue to adjust as you go. That I feel like that's a learned behavior, a learned skill, and it's something that you have to develop pretty quickly, and that really does tie into mindset big time, because to be able to do that and fail and start over quickly, it can be really tough mentally, to have to make that transition over and over and over, and keep trying until you find the right thing that works. And I know I'm really speaking in a lot of generalities here, but that's just kind of the trend that I've seen in myself over the last few years.
Yeah, dude, I love it, man. Just the whole big concept of just betting on yourself and burning the ships and going all in, and knowing that you're not going to fail. Like that's huge, man. That's huge. And
Yeah.
I'm
I
curious,
love it.
you know, when you were at that, like the 18-month mark where you didn't know where your income was coming from next, and when you're on the fence about trying to go get a another job, like what did you pour into? Like what did you focus on? Were you at the point where like, I just gotta go start knocking on doors, I gotta start just networking my face off, or do I need to build a team? Do I need to work on systems and processes? Like what were you kind of focused on to get you over that hump, to get you there?
At that point, it was controlling what I can control, and that was activity. And it was really digging into all the sales related activities. It was like, okay, like dig into the network more, make more phone calls, or try to engage with more people, try to meet with more people, go to more events or create events, or do, a really easy thing for agents to do is host open houses.
Yeah.
Open houses, you can meet all kinds of new people every time. So doing that was a big part of it. In fact, this one closing I had that in that March of 2015, I remember doing an open house. I would say that really transformed my career. And it was based on that, like, I just got to get out there and do it because there's no other option. And out of that one open house, I can think of 2 key clients. And from each of those clients came total probably 20 deals.
It's awesome.
Over the life of our relationship.
Yeah.
All because I was there and I was like, this is going to work. It's going to happen. And, they probably would have, if I asked them, they probably have no idea that I was in the situation that I was in, which is, of course, the important thing. But yeah, so I forgot what your original question was, but
No, it's good, man. I think the biggest piece I think really in any business is just relationships. And
Yeah.
I've noticed, and I was joking about how we haven't, hung out and talked in a while, but I've noticed that you are a relationship builder. And even if it's not you and me hanging out in person, like you're sending me, handwritten notes, you're sending me cupcakes on my birthday, you're sending me, calendar events that are going on, and just like continuous pouring into building relationships and keeping those relationships is huge, man.
Yeah.
And I think I personally think it's one of the key reasons why you are such a successful realtor. And I think it's really important for people to hear, not only just in the real estate business, but I think just in any entrepreneurial business, in anything. I think building and maintaining a relationship is huge.
And I would 100% agree. Any industry can learn how to do that better. Any business. I remember one key time when we bought our first home, and we were going to do some work. We were going to like replace windows and some doors or whatever. And I remember this is even before, this is of course well before real estate, and I was just getting into recruiting duty. So I didn't even understand sales. I had no idea other than used car sales. And we had a window sales guy come to our house and like walk us through everything. And I remember him saying a lot of things about like, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do this, or we'll send this. And they never did. And then I remember his name. His name was Bruce. Because I remember that Bruce pissed me off. Because Bruce,
if you're listening, you better send it.
If you're listening, Bruce, because I hope you learned something from this. Bruce never like followed up with us and never asked about things. Never did. It was just like he was there to just sell a product. And then boom, we were done. And I remember that sticking with me like, man, I don't feel important. I don't feel valued. I don't feel like I'm the most important person, that he's working with, whatever. And so that was a really important like memory for me that I still remember today, that it influences how I engage with, or how I want people to feel and how I want them to be engaged with. So that was a big one. And then, we were talking about some fireplace work we had done at our house, and we're like, man, that fireplace guy was awesome. Like fixed everything up, did this. It was like, but I can't remember his name. And I don't remember anything about the name of his company. And I really want to be able to call him up again if I need something. And this is this morning, actually. And I was like, boom, like part of all of that is that we are people that just forget. Like we're all bombarded with info constantly all day long, that it doesn't matter if I was the most amazing person and service person in the world. If I don't help people remember who I am, what my name is, then eventually they're going to forget, because it's just human nature. So I think businesses can probably, I don't know the percentage they could do more in revenue with, but part of the issue is that people just don't remember the company and they just find the next person online. So anyways, there's some
being
things
the most known and not necessarily probably the best at what you do, but being the most known is probably pretty important.
Yeah. But I think that has it's very applicable to transitioning members as well, where you can spend time and effort. I think a lot of times we lose the relational piece, the importance of that in our search for whatever it is that we think we need to find. Like, for examples, today I had a very, very inspirational conversation with a guy that we don't talk often. We do, we coordinate, but we had an over hour conversation, and it was purely like edifying to both parties. And I think there's going to be future things that we do together. But again, as you look to have those kind of conversations with people as you're transitioning, you start that networking piece. I think there's a couple things that come out of it. Everybody says network, your network is your net worth, blah, 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 right? You can really have some meaningful relationship building and good conversations. And from those things, from those efforts, that is literally an infinite ROI. Like you have no idea who you talk to and part of it is because the civilian world, it's not the ranks, right? It's not you could be talking to a multi-millionaire you don't even know that runs businesses, and you present yourself well, and that they may reach back out and be like, hey dude, I really liked you.
Yeah.
And so here's some opportunities. I've already seen that happen for some buddies recently that are transitioning out, that they don't even know who they're talking to, and then they find out later. And you're not using people, it's not manipulative, it's just the activity of the networking and making yourself being present and being remembered, because you never know whether it's business, transitioning, looking for future jobs, looking for future employees, what that really means. I think that's a huge piece that you hit on. And just be like a good dude, right? A good dude or a good dudette. And things are there's a good potential that something could come from that.
Man, that's so true. Like I hate networking events. And what I mean is, like, I hate when I go there and people are like passing out business cards and they just want me to like do business with them. I'm like, whoa, I don't even know you. Like, how can I trust you? Like, I don't even know if I like you yet. And the no like trust thing is, I mean, that's a real thing. And it applies 100% in the real world, even more so than in the military, because people have options. They have options with who they want to work with and who they want to engage with. It's not like, well, you're my CO, I guess I have to talk to you and we have to do things together. Like, no, that doesn't apply anymore. So that's
when you can gauge it,
networking.
right? Like, when you've been to enough of these things, if someone just like, just throwing the card out, like, that. And I usually,
It's like totally
if that's the
transactional.
conversation, what's that?
It's like totally transactional. It's like, here's my card. Here's my
It
card.
is.
Here's my card.
Yeah, and like, that, and I take those cards and I don't even
trash
because but when the people like sit down, they're like, hey man, all right, so what's your name? Tell me about your family. Like, and they genuinely care, and it's not fake. They genuinely care.
Yeah.
Man, that's, and it may take longer, dude. And it may take longer, but the sometimes when you slow back, you dial back on the RPMs, like, you can probably gain something from the details of those interactions.
Yeah. Like, and for transitioning folks, or for anybody really, like, those events, when you go there, my mindset is always, if I can just meet one cool person, this is awesome. It was totally worth my time. I'm never going there like, who's looking to buy or sell real estate. Like, I hope I find somebody here who wants to do business tomorrow. Like, absolutely not. Like, it truly is just finding people that you want to be around and then investing in them because you like it. And it could, of course, if they have a value add and you have a value for add for them, those things all work out. But first and foremost, it's about just people and enjoying time with people. And that's another thing I guess just learned is, you want to be around people that you enjoy being around, because this business can be so tough, and just being an entrepreneur in Indian industry can be super tough and sometimes very lonely. That when you talk about like infinite ROI, having that network where you can just be with those people, that can just change your whole mindset and day for the better. It helps you get back in the game faster, and accomplish bigger things, think bigger. I mean, all these things that are just awesome,
Yeah, man. And, I know we're running short on time. And I have a lot of things that we might have to keep you back on, and we'll have another conversation on another day. But one of the things that I noticed, again, as being the customer, of yours, is just the team that you've built. Everyone on your team has a different role and a different part of the process, but again, like, they're all awesome. And I can just tell that you've poured your heart and soul as a leader, and to build this team out right. And, I think it's huge. If you could just real shortly, like, kind of give me some of your thoughts and mindset on how you've kind of built your team.
Yeah, man, no, I appreciate that, because the most important thing to me, like, I want every client to say that exactly. Like, I don't want it to be like, man, Drew's awesome. Oh yeah, and then his team was cool, like they helped out. I want it to be like, man, like everything was great. People took care of me. People knew what to do, and it all worked well. Like, that really is like, you just made my day. Thanks, man. That's awesome. But building a team, we talked about there's different phases of your kind of real estate life cycle. There's survival in the beginning, right? And
Yeah.
there's like a little bit of, then you move to like stability, which means like, okay, like money is kind of coming in normally. I'm getting used to this. And then you get to this place of like, we'll call significance. And I'm actually stealing these three phrases from a guy named Brian Buffini, who's a big time real estate coach.
I know.
And so, survival, stability, and significance. As you start earning more, and your revenue in your business is growing, you start looking at like, how do I maintain or create the lifestyle that I want to create? How do I do what I need to do without sacrificing all the things that are most important to me? And then just like everything, you start looking, what can be created system wise, what tools can be implemented, what can be delegated, who can you bring to the table? By the way, that book you're about to start reading, Who Not How,
that's great.
Is a phenomenal read.
Yeah, dude. I'm almost done with it.
It'll transform how you think about everything.
Yeah.
So, and maybe you've already read it, but so you start looking at who can do this, who can do it as well or close to as well as I can, and hopefully even better than I can eventually, so I can focus on the things that are most important. And then, so really it started out, my first official like W-2 hire was in October of 2017. And that was me like, hey, my cousin was graduating college and she had marketing and like all this kind of background. I was like, hey, I need somebody to come help do some more things and help me get a system going. So I hired her. And then 2018 made my second hire, which was like more of the ops manager role, coming in to help kind of run things with transaction and kind of buyer and listing ops. So did that and learned to offload these things, and then that allowed me to dig into other things a little more. And then it truly became like, you're kind of visualizing your process in your business. I could start like just pinpointing and like, okay, I want to dig into that, or I want to dig into that, or I want to change this. And you started, I don't know, just started clicking. And so now the fun thing now, after that kind of internal, and we always are working on how we're doing things internally with support. Now I'm thinking, okay, how do we recreate this and create it where a system where we're helping create freedom for agents while helping, creating freedom for agents without their production suffering, essentially. So, and how to implement and integrate agents into the system, how to do the training and like implement training or systematize that a little more. So there's a lot of things that at this stage now, like I'm looking at and trying to figure out, and what core capabilities can we add on to the team, all towards, again, this goal of kind of just building wealth for veterans and of course our clients. But it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to think about it, right?
Yeah,
to be in a place where you can even think about it, and then the freedom to implement it.
Yeah,
that's the autonomy to implement it, which is the awesome part. But I can go on that for another couple hours, so we won't do that.
Like I said, man, we got to have you back on. We'll have another episode.
Yeah, but yeah, we can talk the kickoff on the team side more too, in person or whatnot. So
yeah, it's funny because we're short on time because of all the time we spent investing in each other and having a conversation beforehand, which was rich, right? Which was, as awesome as this podcast has been for me personally, the time before it, the relational part of it was, man, it's so significant for me. And I think, as we go forward, your name always comes up for Stu and I, as we talk about transitioning to Colorado and Denver and what the future looks like. You and I have talked, Drew, not too long ago about just, what the future looks like. And so, man, it's awesome. I love it. I think, my biggest takeaway, one, thank you for, your time and sharing and the relationship and really, you've encouraged me, because a lot of times I struggle with that piece of, the things you said to get over. I struggle with each of those, and not necessarily having the confidence or the self-belief or the mindset to be like, man, we're gonna make this happen. We're gonna set our goals and we're gonna make it happen. It's gonna be awesome, and it'll be meaningful. It'll be significant, and it'll be for the kingdom, and all the things we want to do. Just take action, plug away, man, and have confidence in your ability. I love it. I love it. I think more people need to hear that, and I think more people need to let that feed them and their confidence so that they can do amazing things.
I totally agree. Got to hear it. I have to hear it more and more. I have to hear it all the time, because you get that trash talk in your head, and it's easy to get isolated and to get down on yourself, to doubt, and that's just a bad place to be. That's not what we were created for, frankly.
Yeah, love it, dude.
Love it. Drew, how can people get in touch with you? If they're looking for advice on the real estate side, or if they're moving to Denver and looking for an amazing realtor.
Couple places. Find me on LinkedIn. Look up Drew Morris, realtor. Go to modernwesthome.com if you want to check out the website. Find me there. Facebook, Instagram, all that. But we can email Drew at modernwesthome.com. I mean, all those places are good places to start.
Yeah, so, and we'll put your website and put those links in the show notes for folks to check out.
Cool.
Well, dude, this has been good, man. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and yeah, man, we'll have you back on and talk more shop, talk more goodness.
Awesome. Yeah, this is really great, man. I'm so thankful that you guys do something like this and you're helping people. I'm honored to be a part of it, to offer something, hopefully, to it, and looking forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Yeah, brother. We'll be
can't wait.
Can't wait. Some coffee or some beers or something soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, guys and gals, go connect with Drew. He's an amazing dude, amazing realtor, and just a pretty rad guy. Hey, if you like this, give it a screenshot, share it on your platforms, tell people about this, invite people to come listen to this podcast. And we always like those 5-star reviews. And even David, you can give him a 5-star review. He's an all right guy too. And
thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome.
Very, very generous of you.
You're welcome. Hey, go fill your storehouse.
Hey, thank you for joining us, friends. Go take some action.
See ya.
Peace.